Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Mental Wellness for You with your host, me, Dr. Nicole L. Arcady, your mental wellness expert. And today we're going to be talking about something that really tugs on our emotions. We're going to be talking about finances, our money, honey. Oftentimes it is just so amazing to see how there is an emotional connection that we have with our finances. And I have a very special guest today that's going to help walk us through some strategies that can assist us when we're talking about our finances and things that we need to make sure we are addressing and the knowledge that we need to have so that it doesn't become a negative thing when we're talking about our finances and our money. Our money and our finances, it doesn't have to be a negative thing. It doesn't have to emotionally take us to a place that is dark and deep. Oftentimes that occurs when we just don't know and don't have the proper information. And so I'm not the expert on finances. I do not try to act as if I am, right? But what I can do is I'm great with finding resources, right, on the information that I don't know. And so who I'm going to bring on right now is a resource to not only just me, to moms, to women, but to everyone. But for this show, I am focusing on my women, moms, making sure that we are addressing what we need to have. And so without further ado, let me go ahead and bring to the stage Miss Christina Mosbly. Welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yes. So let me just read to you all just her bio. So you're thinking, well, okay, who is Christina Mosbly? Well, let me just tell you who she is. She has had a career spanned over different industries with the goal of always being able to help others. She has worked in Disney commercials, Bills, Burtonies, REI, Alaskan Airlines Magazine, Fred Meyer's hair care products, Dave Matthews Video, indie commercials, and so many more. Guess what? And if you're looking at her right now, you see how her face looks flawless. Well, that's because she also had a successful career as a model. She's looking fabulous right now. She also had a budding designer, began enlisting her skills to create eye-catching images and marketing materials. Models sought teachings and tools to advance their careers, and everyday people asked for her help to help assist them with putting forward. So then what ended up happening after the market crash in 2008, her parents said, you know what, we need you to help us in your expertise in business and financial services. And so her goal then shifted. And she is now an investment broker and advisor. That is, she educates people on how to implement strategies and solutions to help bridge the gap between where they are and what their desired financial goals are. And her passion and drive is to assure that she's educating people on how money works. And that began over 24 years ago. So she's had a great career here. And her passion now, as her 25th year, she's very excited and passionate about helping people is more stronger than ever. And so without further ado, please help welcome Christina Mosbly, investment broker and advisor. And I forgot to mention, she is federally licensed. So that means she can do business anywhere. If you're thinking, oh, I'm in California, can she do business here? She's in Florida. Yes. Do you not see I'm in California? She's in Florida. And yes, she is my investment broker and advisor. You may ask, hey, well, I live in Texas. Can she do? The answer is yes. Federally licensed means federally licensed across the nation. So welcome, Christina.
Thank you so much. I feel so blessed to be able to be here with you today, Dr. Nicole, and your audience. And God is so awesome. Like, I think the root of when we talk about emotional stress when it comes to finances and our money, it's lack of education or misinformation and failure to plan, because the conversation at our dinner table is not about what we need to do to move forward financially. We're just struggling to have to put food on the table, not really taking those moments in time to talk about the things important long term. So first, I wanted to start talking about failure to plan or not identifying where we want it to go. And my clients always laugh at me and they say, you know, Christina, you're so funny and the analogies you use, but I believe in keeping things super, super simple, because if it's simple, then we can apply it. And if we can apply it, we can change our lives. And that's what's so important. I'm so excited. I love this stuff. So the first thing is identifying where we want to go and planning to get there. It's not enough just to identify a goal. A goal is saying what I want to attain, but a plan shows and tells me what's my step-by-step how to get there. And so when I was praying about what the example I could use, I said, okay, me and my ex-husband, and it's been many, many years ago, went on a road trip. And a road trip can be very stressful. I equate road trips to this roadmap of our finances. You don't know where to go, how long it's going to take, what are all the things in between, where are you going to sleep? So taking a road trip can kind of be equivalent to mapping out what we want for our finances. So when we were planning this trip to Charleston, South Carolina, and thank God we did it months prior to just jumping in the car and being like, okay, let's go to Charleston. That would be so stressful. You don't know what's going to happen. You haven't made a hotel reservation. And if you like me, I need to plan where I'm going to sleep. Anything else can happen, but I need to know where I'm going to rest my head. And so we take this road trip. And wouldn't you know, when we took the road trip, it was on one of this winters in Charleston in the South where they had the worst storm. There was ice on the ground. I mean, it was really, really bad. But our pre-planning allowed us, one, to know where we were going to sleep. There are things out of our control. I can't control the weather. That's all God, right? I can't control the accidents on the road. I can't control how many people are going to be on the road, but I can control the end goal of where I'm going to lay my head. The rest, I just kind of need to be able to say, do we have enough gas in the car? Do we have enough food? And thank God we had that plan of where we're going to stay, because along the road, there were people who had to sleep in their car because they didn't plan the trip. The hotels were booked because when there's ice on the road, you can't travel on the road. You have to get off the road. So if you haven't pre-planned of where you're going to stay, then that means the worst case scenario is you have nowhere to stay. So if we haven't planned for our retirement and we get to retirement, then we notice that so many people are now having to go back to work because nobody sat with them in those working years to help them accumulate money and to invest it somewhere where I can preserve what I'm accumulating. But then God forbid, if worst case scenario happens, I'm mitigating my loss.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Now, I mean, just giving that analogy that you're saying, as you were talking about just the ice and, not knowing where, I think about, we were driving back from Texas and we weren't anticipating it snowing. Didn't anticipate. We didn't have the type of tires, right, to drive in snow. And you're right. People were spun out on the side of the road. Whenever we would stop somewhere, everyone was trying to shelter in for just the warmth or whatnot to get food. And we just had to keep going because there were no let's pull over, and because there weren't any hotels along that route. Right. So we did not plan that well driving back, coming back, not anticipating those snowy roads. So when you're saying this pre-planning, I mean, that's so important when you're talking about our finances and being able to sit down or have someone sit down with us, because I know my parents didn't do that. They didn't sit down with me to talk about finances. What I saw was how they were living paycheck to paycheck, or they were in debt, or because I didn't realize they didn't have great credit, they were buying things a lot of time, right? We had all these cars and, like ATCs and all these different gadgets, but I didn't realize they were paying a high interest rate because their credit wasn't great.
Mm-hmm. When you talk about parents, like my parents, we come from a hardworking family, and my parents understood saving. But as a Black American family, all they knew was saving in the bank. And the bank does not give us enough accumulation over a long period of time to get us to our end goal. So my parents saved, but then I remember when they were talking about starting with Primerica, just a small business educating people, they did it because had someone talked to them in their young years about where they could reposition or better position what they were saving, that would have not only changed, that would change my life, my brother's life, my brother's children's lives. So we understand the concept of ownership or real estate. As you see all these real estate shows now, and people want to get into flipping, and they want to get into it because it means I'm buying something at a cost, and I pray when I resell it, it's at a higher cost, and the difference is my profit. But how do we apply that when we talk about investments? Well, when I say that I think the bank is a protective structure. That's what we all think the bank is safe. Well, I don't know after last week's information.
Oh my, yes.
Well, that's for another podcast. Okay.
Oh my.
but but I have my money, if you have it at the bank, you're only going to get a certain amount of growth on it. And when we talk about inflation in simple terms means the cost for something today down the road will not cost down the road what it does today. So if milk is $1, which is not, but easy math, if milk is, a carton of milk is worth $1 today, 5 years from now, it's not going to be worth $1. It might be worth $4. So I need my money to grow to be able to, that I can be able to afford the $4 milk down the road. So if somebody had talked to my parents about, there's something you can do is invest in the market. The market means I'm buying stock or shares of something, which means I have equity ownership in something. Okay. Equity, just like in our house, when I purchased my house, now over time, as I pay my mortgage payment, part goes to interest, part goes to principal. Down the road, I'm creating greater and greater ownership. So now when my mortgage is paid off and I decide to sell it, all that comes to me. Or if you don't pay your mortgage off, you sell it, the difference between your purchase and your sales price, then that goes in your pocket. So ownership allows us to be able to accumulate greater money than just at the bank. But then also I need to make sure, I say it like this year, the word that God's had in my spirit has all been position, reposition, position, because this is where the misinformation comes in. I had a client come in last week and he was like, I like getting into the market when the market is at a good space. And I go, really? I go, well, talk to me more about that. Because we love when the market is good. Everybody's like, I'm making money. But I go, have you thought about this? What if you continued to invest when the market was in a downswing? And then when the market went back up, you had even greater than what you had before. Would that be good or bad? And he said, that'd be great. And I go, that's the thing that we miss when the frantic goes, oh my gosh, the market is bad. Oh my gosh, I got to pull my money out. Oh my gosh, take a breather. We need to operate on not emotion, but keeping in mind what my end goal is. The market being in a down place just means things are kind of on sale. Like I love shoes. My little nephew was like counting my shoes in my closet. He's like, Auntie, why do you have so many? And I was like, don't worry about that. But it's like a shoe sale. So if I can get 2 pairs of shoes for one price, that means now I own more shoes. So when the market is down, it doesn't mean that we need to get frantic. It goes, how can I position myself even greater? That when the market goes back up, I have even greater than the person who just entered the market when it was in a good place. Lord, I love this stuff.
I love that. How can I position myself, right, in a position greater so that you can see more of the benefits? I love that.
Yes. So it's not a time to get out. It's a time to say, how can I position myself? And I always say, and we're not talking about specifics as to what to invest in. That's a whole different podcast. But I always say it's important to talk with somebody like myself, or if you have your own broker and advisor, to talk about what strategies and solutions are best for what you are willing to risk. And let me talk about that while I got it real quick in my spirit. Risk is this, because people talk about it, but I don't know if they really make it where people can understand it. And this might be a little silly analogy, but just go with me. So me and my brother, we grew up in Miami. He is a fish. I am not. So when we go to the beach, his risk is greater. He can go into the ocean on the jet ski. He can fall off and he's good because he can make his way back to shore. I cannot take that risk because I am not a good swimmer. And so I don't like the water to go above my head. So when I go to the beach, the risk I'm willing to take is I walk in is chest high and that's all I'm playing with because I know I can make it back.
Yes.
To the shoreline and be there alive. So both our risk for going to our enjoyment for the beach is different. Although we come from the same 2 people, we are brother and sister. What we can handle far as beach activity is very different. The same thing when we talk about how invested in the market we want to be. It's important. And that's where people like me who are licensed come in to help assess what risk are you willing, how much risk can you handle? Based on that tells me what's my best positioning so that I can benefit when the market is up, but I also can mitigate my loss when the market is down while preserving what has been accumulated.
Ooh, I like that. Preserving what has been accumulated, because what is this thing that we often have when we're talking about our emotions and finances. And, well, can I do this? Or I don't know where to go, or so I just don't do it. It sounds like it's fear.
It's fear, because the fear is, what's fear? It's the unknown, because we don't know. And, or we've had people in our lives who've had bad experiences because they've put all their eggs in one basket. That's another thing I want people to take away too, is diversification and what our strategy is. It's like pistons in a car. If all the pistons in the car were down at the same time, we're in trouble. If they're up at the same time, we're in trouble. Remember, our moms or grandmothers always said, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Yes.
You spread it out over the baskets. But what we don't know keeps us in a position of fear. And when we're in fear, we can't attain what God has for us, because we can't take that step forward, because we have this fear of the unknown. But the thing we do know is, I love history. My mom will tell you that, like anybody who like knows me really well. I love history, because the thing with history is that we can learn to be better than what was behind us. But the important thing is to take what history has to teach us. We don't want to repeat it, but we want to learn from people's missteps so that we can step forward better, excuse me. But we know the stock market has a lot more positive years than negative years. But a lot of times people just focus on the negative. The market's down, the market's down. Okay, well, the market's going to do what it always does. But over time and over history, we have better years positively than we do negatively. So even if I might only have, let's say, $50, that doesn't mean I can't position myself to get the best out of what I can for my $50. So it shouldn't be about how much I have to spend. It should be saying, what can I do and how can I position myself with what I have to step me closer to my goal?
I like what you just said, because oftentimes I think about, you hear, well, I don't have enough money to invest. If I were to say I only have $50, but I like what you just said, get the best out of what you can with that $50, and not look so much as how much you have, but you still have to start somewhere. And so I like that, just that perspective. And I definitely can say, one of the reasons why I wanted you to come on, and for the listeners, I met Christina last year at the Live Well and Excel retreat down in Florida. And it was so amazing, because she came in, and I am not good with financial planning, advising, all of that. That is not my forte. That is not my expertise. And I do not claim that it is. And she came in and she presented this workshop in such a clear, concise manner. And it was so understandable. And I'm like, oh, I can understand that. I don't think understandable is a word, but it was, I understood, what she said. And she gave these great analogies, and, and I thought, wow, I wish someone had sat down with me early on in life and just laid it out. Because even though I had these financial plans, I didn't know what I'm supposed to choose and pick and why, and I need to put it in the bank, so I wasn't even aware. I was ignorant in a lot of that. And so she did an amazing job with just laying out the information where we were able to understand it clearly. And she addressed the questions that we had as well. And so you make it sound fun. Now, I'm not going into financial planning, but just the enthusiasm that you have, and just how you just broke that down for us, because something you said is, what we don't know keeps us in fear, right? And I can definitely say I was one of those individuals, like, oh, I don't know, I don't want to do the stock market. What if I lose my money? And unfortunately, my husband did invest, and he lost a lot at one point. And so that just added to that fear. But fear, we think of it as an acronym, which is false evidence appearing real, right? Because it's the unknown. But what you're saying is, let's help you to let's make it known. Let's educate you and increase and enhance your knowledge base around this, so that it's no longer scary and is no longer an unknown entity.
One, I like to think I bring sexy to the world of investment. Yes.
Yes.
If you could only see my outfit today, I got like knee-high boots on.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
I'm not the one wearing a suit.
Okay. Oh, well, I'm not going to show you but I just have a nice shirt on, but you don't need to see the bottom part.
But I think also too, when we listen and we hear the people on TV and they talk, they use words that we don't use every day. And that bothers me so much, because when you use language that I don't understand, you make it seem as though I I shouldn't be in that world. And that's not the case. This world is for everybody. I just need the information broken down into simple things that I can digest. It's like going to the doctor. And it's one of the reasons I love my doctor, Dr. Scott, is that he makes it simple for me. Because, like, look, don't tell me all these fancy medical terms. I just need to know, doctor, what do we need to do? What's the plan? Make it so I can understand it. And so when it becomes clinical, it becomes unrelatable. And when it becomes unrelatable, I can't apply it. And if I can't apply it, then I'm stuck. And it feels like everybody's moving ahead of me. And that deals with our mental health too. When you feel like you're the person stagnant and you're not moving where everybody else is moving, you feel like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
Am I less of a person? And you are not less of a person. You belong to be exactly where all the wealthy people are. They just do the things that we're talking about. Really simple. They identify what their goal is. They have a plan and a strategy for how to get there. If something happens along the road, which it's going to happen, it's life, right? We can't control what happens day to day. But what I can control is sticking to my plan, my attitude towards what I want to do, and making sure I'm in contact with my financial person. Whereas things change, we're changing the strategy. It's like going on a trip, right? If I'm in Orlando, Florida right now. So if I went to Savannah, I'm going to take I-95. But if there's an accident where I-95 shuts down, does that mean my trip is over? No, I took a week off. I still want my vacation. That just means I got to go on another side road and then come back ahead of where the accident is and keep on going. Our investment strategy needs to have that same kind of plan in place, that if something happens, the market, we had, the pandemic that happened in, 2020, it doesn't mean I come out of the market. It means I talk to my person and say, okay, what's our strategy for keep moving? We kind of have to digress, go around and keep moving, but it doesn't mean I have to abandon my plan altogether. It just means I need to reassess and reposition. That word keeps coming back to me. I need to reposition how I'm approaching what it is that I want to do.
I love that. And so if I were to take the reposition, right, and I think more in the mental health realm, it's more of a reframe, right? So if something isn't going the way that you want, you just reframe how you're looking at it, right? You just reframe how you speak about it. And so it's not that you say, oh, what is that saying? I love sayings, but I will mess a saying up. Well, you don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater, right?
Oh, yeah.
Is that saying? It's like, okay, let's just reposition, reframe, pivot, right, to a different way of how we're going to go about doing something. So I love that. So if I were to take, and I was trying to write it down real fast when you're going over the strategies, but just 3 of the strategies that I heard you say as far as helping, to address knowing what our financial plans are, just our finances, so that it doesn't have to have a negative impact on our mental health is, and you can correct me, I'm just going to summarize what I was trying to catch while you were talking, because it was all this good information that was coming out your mouth, is one, we need to plan, right? So, and have a goal. So it's that pre-planning, right? Creating whatever that goal and that plan is. And you had also mentioned diversification, identifying what strategy you're going to need to use. And how you do that is being able to speak with an investment professional, so that you can really sit down and specialize and make your plan, right? Whatever is specific to the individual, their personal needs, because everyone, as you were mentioning, has different personal needs, and the level of risk that we're willing to take is going to be different as well.
Yes. And I always say it's like, because people, because some people want to do it themselves. And I always say with that, it's like giving yourself a haircut. I would never do that. One, I am not, that's a whole, that's like giving myself, I get a relaxer. I would giving myself a relaxer. I've not been to school. I don't have the knowledge of how to mix chemicals. What if I leave it on there too long? What if, especially that when you're dealing with relaxers, what if you leave it long, then you lose your hair.
Yeah.
That's one of the things when people talk about doing the investment themselves. And I get this a lot. I get people who've invested themselves and they come to me going, fix it. Kind of putting toothpaste back in the tube. But it's you don't know when to come in and out of the market. Your strategy, part of it needs to be where you can just leave it and kind of forget it, let it do
Yeah.
its thing. But when you're taking on the responsibility of buying and selling and doing all this stuff, usually people's timing is wrong, and you're coming out at the wrong times, and you're coming in at the times that don't benefit you the most.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's important. It's like, I would never go cut my own hair. I'm just not
Mm-hmm.
skilled. I wouldn't give myself my own relaxer. That's not my specialty or my forte. So sitting with somebody, and I would say too, it's like when you go find a hairstylist, I didn't just find my hairstylist. She was the first person. That was it. I talked to a few people till I found what was my best fit. So please let me say that
Yes.
too. Find the investment broker and advisor that fits you best. So
Yes.
ask them what their philosophy is. Ask them how often do you stay in touch with your clients, so that you know when changes are happening, so that they
Yeah.
can help you reposition. So it should be, shopping around for the
Mm.
person that fits your needs the best. Just like when you go buy a car, you don't go to the first dealership and purchase the car. I hope not.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you go to a few dealerships, and if that first one was your person, then you come back to it after you've assessed all the different options that's
Yeah.
out there. So you can pray about, okay, is this going to be a good fit for me long term as life changes, things changing, but this is my resource that can help me
Mm-hmm.
every step of the way.
I love that. This is my resource, right? I love looking at it in that aspect. And something you mentioned also is, a part of what can cause the emotional distress that we have with our finances is failure to plan. Oh,
Yes.
or thinking that we have more time than we have. Oh, I'll get to that later. And then before
Yes.
you know it, it's like 2 years, 3 years, five. You're like, I'm retiring already, and I have made no plans. What in the world? And so there's no better preparation than starting today, right? Starting today helps you for tomorrow. And so one of the other saying is, why put off tomorrow what you can do today?
Yeah. Can I
Because we
add
don't
something
know.
real
Uh huh.
quick?
Uh huh.
I was going to say, I had a client call a few weeks ago, and she's actually not my personal client, but sometimes people, change, and they say, hey, I need somebody that fits me more. But she called me, and it was an account that I inherited. So it wasn't a client that I initially sat down from
Mm-hmm.
start to finish. She was with somebody else, and then she came to me, and she needed, her sister had passed away, and she needed some money. But what wasn't done in the beginning, she wasn't my client, someone else's client. They didn't plan, because not everybody's goal is retirement. And I guess let
Mm-hmm.
me say that too. Whatever your plan is, your plan could be retirement. Your plan could be wanting to buy a house in 5 years. Your plan could be wanting to fund your kids' education when they go to school in 10 years. So whatever that plan identifiable is. But what wasn't done when the beginning was to assess what her plan was. Or
Mm.
for her goal was like, she didn't want it. She's young. She just wanted to have money in case of emergencies. But that was not said in the beginning. So when the person invested her
Mm.
money, they didn't assess all those questions and ask her long-term things. So when she
Oh,
needed the
wow.
money for her sister, it wasn't there because no emergency fund was created for her. And she goes, well, that was my
Wow.
goal all along in the beginning. I just wanted money in case for emergencies.
Mm-hmm.
So you never know what might come up in the interim. It might not be retirement. It could be, you want to make sure you want to take a trip in 2 years. That's a goal too. That takes money to get there.
Mm-hmm. So identifying, because we could have a short-term goal or we could have a long-term goal. So
Yeah.
being able to identify that and make sure you're heard, by the
Yes.
your the professional that you're utilizing for your investment.
Yes.
Wow, man, that's
And then
just
that,
amazing. Mm-hmm.
no, and then I wanted to say that too, because the fear and the unrest comes from lack of communication too.
Mm.
So if you're not talking to your advisor, if you're not talking to your broker, it's important that, even like when we had last week with the whole Silicon Valley
Mm-hmm.
bank situation, I had a lot of clients call. Even I talk to my clients once a quarter. So that's 4 times a year. But even in that, they still had concerns and questions. But I was able to calm those fears and say, remember what our strategy is.
Mm.
Remember, this is what's happening in your portfolio. And when you hear the word portfolio, it just means where is my money invested? That's it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like an artist. Their portfolio is all their works of art that they created. So your portfolio of investments is what makes up my strategies for what my goal is financially. So it's okay to pick up the phone, to have your fears, just calmed, to say,
Yeah.
hey, is my money okay? And you should have that freedom to be able to call your broker and advisor to make sure, and that eases our fear, that eases our tension, that eases our stress. So communication is key too, so that we are not in that stressful position, because stress, is not good. It kills.
Stress kills. I mean, it literally kills, because it makes our heart beat faster and blood has to pump faster, right? And so it's putting more strain on the heart. And heart disease is one of the number one killers, unfortunately, in the United States. And so I love what you just said is, it may be time for those of you who say, you know what, I have an investment broker, but they're not communicating with me, or I didn't know this information. So this may be a moment for those of you who do have someone to kind of do an assessment of what you currently have and to see if it's working for you. And if not, like Christina said, you can shop around. You get the person that's going to be the best fit for you, because it's your information, it's your life, right? That they're working for, that they're working with you to ensure that you are able to reach your goals. So I think it's always great. I tell my clients, like, you're the best advocate for yourself. So you got to look at what you need and make sure the person that you're working with is fitting that for you.
Yeah. The first thing I sit down with my clients, one, I take their concerns, but also two, we don't do any transaction on the first meeting. Mm-hmm. Maybe not the first 2 meetings, because it's like dating, right? We don't marry the first person we date, right?
We hope not.
Not anyway. We gotta get to know
unless
them.
You're on that TV show, Married at First Sight. I don't know.
Don't do it. But that first initial meeting should really be you talking about your concerns, asking questions, and then them telling you what their strategy is, getting to know you. I always tell my clients, I want you to get to know me, because for me, it's a relationship that we're building. It's stronger than any relationship because it's dealing with your money. Yeah. And so I might not be the best fit for somebody, and that's okay. And another broker might not be the best fit. So finding what works for you, that helps with our mental, just us being strong mentally, because then that means our fears are subsided.
Yeah. I love that. I love what you said is one, so that you need to feel comfortable with the person that you're entrusting your money with, right? Yes. That's the thing. If I give the visual aid, do you feel comfortable, taking, let's say you had a bag full of money, a lot of $100, and just giving it to a stranger that you haven't vetted or spoken to, and you just walk away? Oh yeah, just go put that in the bank for me. Most of us say, heck no, right? And so making sure you feel comfortable. I mean, this has been some great information, and it wasn't even a long, right? It wasn't, you haven't even come on here for a long time, but wanting to make the information concise, really relatable. And I love what you said, how you present information to make sure it's relatable, because that's so very important when we're talking to people. And so I'm just going to go over, is there anything, just when we're looking at that emotional connection to our finances? I think you did a great job, Christina, of helping us understand that.
Oh, no, thank you. Pleasure. It was such a blessing. I feel so blessed to have been on your show. I hope that everybody is able to take things and apply it to their daily life, and God just blesses what, they want to step forward in. So, and have a great plan moving forward. So I'm excited.
Love that. Have a great plan. And this has been Christina Mosbly, investment broker and advisor. If you would like to contact Christina, you can email her. And that is, if you can see her name, for those of you who are watching this on the live podcast, right, on YouTube. But I'm going to spell it out for those who are listening on the podcast. That is Christina Mosbly, ChristianaMobley, Christina Mosbly at Primerica.com. That's PRIMEAMERICA.com. So that's Christina Mosbly at Primerica.com. That's her email. I'm also going to leave that in the write-up section, so that when you look at the episode, you'll be able to gather that as well. And if you wanted to, you know what, I don't want to email, I just want to reach out and pick up telephone, you can reach her main office at area code 407-298-3940. Once again, that's area code 407-298-3940. And this has been Christina Mosbly. She's done an amazing job. And just looking at the strategy, right? One, we have to make sure we have no reason not to plan. So failure to plan is planning to fail, right? That's another saying. You know, I love my sayings. And is the lack of knowledge. I think about the scripture, my people perish for their lack of
For
knowledge.
lack of
All these,
knowledge.
right? All these scriptures just come to mind, but just looking at it in that aspect, it's our lack of knowledge that becomes a problem. So now you don't have a reason not to be knowledgeable, because I have brought Christina on here to share with you just some simple steps of what you can do to get started with better addressing your financial needs. And so, without further ado, I want to just thank you, Christina, for coming on to the show and sharing these tips and jewels with our listeners to assist us in being better with our finances.
Thank you so much. God bless.
Well, everyone, that is it. We have come to the end of the road. I hope that you have heard something that has been beneficial, educational, inspirational, inspiring you towards wanting to do better, wanting to make sure you're addressing your financial needs so that it doesn't have to negatively impact your mental wellness. This is another episode from yours truly, Dr. Nicole Arcady, on mental wellness for you. If you have not done so, please go ahead, click that button to subscribe so that way you can become aware of whenever a new podcast show airs, or if you're watching this visually, right, on the YouTube channel, Dr. Nicole Arcady, go ahead and click subscribe so you can also become aware whenever there's another episode, and you won't ever have to worry about missing it because it will make sure to alert you with that. If you're wanting to have some additional information, you're like, you know what, Dr. Nicole, I love all the stuff you're talking about, but I just need a little bit more. I don't have time to go and sit down with someone for mental health or for coaching sessions, but I really want some additional skills so that I can just enhance my professional or my personal life. Well, then go ahead and visit my website, drnicolearcady.com, and you can click on that link to take you to our online wellness academy, where we have different professional courses that can assist you in making sure you are addressing your mental health needs, your mental wellness needs, and your professional needs as well. It's been lovely. I love coming on here talking with you every other Monday of the week. Happy Mental Wellness Monday, everyone. And I hope you have a fantabulous rest of your week. And why is it so very important for me to talk about and for you to know about mental wellness? Well, that's just simple, because you matter too. Ta-ta for now, everyone. This is Dr. Nicole L. Arcady, your mental wellness expert.